By this point, we have discussed many of the seemingly supernatural encounters that have occurred throughout the series, and with each of them, I have made a case for why they may have been manifestations of the monster. But there is still one more of these on-island apparitions that I want to argue was the Man in Black, and that is the appearance of Ben's mother. In the Season 3 episode, The Man Behind the Curtain, we learn that Emily Linus died off-island after giving birth to her son.
Roger? Roger?
I'm right here.
Colin Benjamin?
This tells us the specter of her that Ben sees around 9 years later is definitively not a corporeal presence, and is therefore either a genuine ghost or a vision projected by the Man in Black. Ben's emotional state, in both instances where he sees the image of his mother, fulfills the mentally vulnerable condition required for the Man in Black to be able to project such a non-corporeal form to him.
Don't forget about Ben. He's getting a quality education. I don't give a damn about his education. If I'm gonna get shot at, I want hazard pay.
But why would he do such a thing? And why do I prefer the idea that he did over the suggestion that this actually was Emily Linus? Well, for starters, there's the question of motive. What reason would Ben's mother have for wanting to lure him into the jungle? Some might suggest she is being used by the island itself to enact its will. But as I've extensively explained in past videos, most thoroughly in the Hearing Voices essay, I find the notion that the island and/or ghosts behave in this way to be extremely contrived and unsatisfying on a storytelling level. Something else established in the Hearing Voices series is the undeniable and frequently demonstrated connection the Whispers have to confirmed appearances of the monster. Conversely, in the very few cases where we can say with real certainty a character is conversing with a genuine spirit, it's worth noting that they are never once accompanied by the Whispers. So the presence of these Whispers during Emily's second, more substantial appearance, in my opinion, more strongly supports the Man in Black interpretation of this scene.
Mom?
Likewise, her appearing in the same outfit from Ben's photo of her better fits with this being a reflection of Ben's mental image of his mother, rather than a spiritual representation of her. Furthermore, at no other point in the series, before or after this, do we see or hear about Ben communing with spirits. In fact, the only other indication that Ben may have been parapsychologically gifted in some way is when he suggests to Locke that he too used to have prophetic dreams.
Wake up, Hugo. I thought we didn't know where we were going, dude.
We do now.
I used to have dreams.
Yet the dream John just had, along with nearly every dream we see on screen throughout the series, is strongly implied to have been generated by the Man in Black.
You gotta find me, John. You gotta find me. And when you do, you'll find him.
I'm Christian.
This leads not only me, but eventually Ben himself to the conclusion that he was guided down his path by the Man in Black.
What's that? A secret room?
It's where I was told I could summon the monster. That's before I realized that it was the one summoning me.
Given that Ben says this in front of him, it's safe to assume it was not Richard who told Ben about the function of the summoning chamber. leading me to suspect this was communicated by way of one of Ben's aforementioned dreams. And now that he has a much better understanding of what the monster can do and what it's been working towards all this time, Ben has now realized it was the one summoning him, starting all the way back when he was a child. Continuing with this interpretation, by making Ben believe that his mother's ghost can be found in the jungle, the Man in Black motivates Ben to venture out of the barracks on his own. Once in the jungle, Ben follows the whispers straight to Richard Alpert.
Mom? Mom? Mom! Mom! Mom!
I believe that once the Man in Black discovered this lonely, alienated little boy living amongst Dharma, he saw the potential for Jacob's people to use him as a weapon in their conflict against the Initiative. And indeed, the Purge, in which many candidates were likely killed, would not have been possible without Ben. But what about Richard? Based on his own past experience with the Man in Black, shouldn't he have picked up on his potential involvement here? This is actually the perfect opportunity to consider what exactly Richard knew about this man, his abilities, and his agenda. After which, we can perhaps better understand what was going on in Richard's head during his first encounter with Ben. Let's start by reviewing the full extent of what we know for sure he learned about the monster in the 1800s. Unlike most characters, Richard does understand that the monster is a person who wants Jacob dead. Jacob's success in convincing Richard that he is not the devil and they are not in hell undoubtedly means Richard is aware that the monster is deceptive and manipulative. By extension, it's also likely that he realizes the vision he saw of his wife, which also claimed they were in hell, was actually a trick the Man in Black played on his mind. That said, it would seem Richard was not aware that the monster could physically replicate bodies present on the island. We can deduce this from the fact that it never seemed to occur to Richard that the apparently resurrected John Locke might not actually be who he appeared to be.
Ben told me that he strangled you.
That is my recollection, yes.
He said he was sure you were dead. He saw your coffin loaded onto that plane that you came back on. How are you alive?
If anyone should have an explanation, I think it would be you.
I have been here a long time, John, and I've seen things on this island that I could barely describe, but I've never seen someone come back to life.
Combine this with his complete ignorance of the candidates.
Why do you look like John Locke?
Because John's a candidate. Or at least he was a candidate.
What do you mean? What do you mean a candidate?
And we can safely surmise that Jacob told Richard virtually nothing else about the Man in Black beyond their initial conversation. And with everything we know about Jacob, this makes perfect sense. Jacob refrains from telling people about his brother because he wants them to resist his temptations, manipulations, and deceptions without having to explicitly tell them what to watch out for. The only way to genuinely prove the Man in Black wrong about humanity is to let him try to corrupt them. To simply be told of the monster's deceptions would mean that people weren't truly overcoming the corruptibility that the Man in Black believes defines us. With that in mind, I have no doubt that the entirety of Richard's knowledge of the monster and its abilities is what we see him learn on screen. So coming back to the scene where Ben and Richard first meet, what do I think Richard made of Ben's described experience with his mother?
I'm looking for my mom.
You think she's out here?
She's dead.
First, Richard makes sure that Ben doesn't mean he's looking for his mother's body.
Did she die here? On the island?
Then, once Ben confirms that his mother died off-island...
No. When I was a baby.
I think this reminded Richard all too well of his own experience shortly after coming to the island. And I think he did in fact conclude the man in black was behind it.
He said the only way I would see my wife again is if I kill you. I saw her here, in this place. Where is she?
That wasn't your wife.
Yes, it was. She's dead, just like me.
Did you see her out here, Ben, in the jungle?
She talked to me.
What'd she say?
That I couldn't come with her. She said it wasn't time yet.
But because Richard was completely unaware of the Man in Black's other motive of killing candidates, he assumed Ben was being manipulated in the exact same way he once was, to simply kill Jacob. This is why Richard's response is to tell Ben he should go home.
You should go home now. Your people will be looking for you.
I don't want to go back there.
And why he's not at all concerned that their meeting was what the Man in Black actually wanted.
Take me with you.
Maybe that can happen. Maybe.
But there's still one more issue that sometimes gets raised in response to the suggestion that the Man in Black is behind this apparition. Just a few episodes earlier, it's established that Smokey is deterred by the sonic fence surrounding the barracks. And while the second on-island sighting of Emily Linus isn't seen within its perimeter, the first one is. At first glance, this may seem like a solid counterpoint. However, after a bit more thought, it becomes clear that this fence is not as much of a deterrent as the Man in Black has allowed people to believe. For starters, we know someone can avoid triggering the fence if they're able to go over it. Something the Man in Black could easily do, given his shape-shifting nature. There's also the tunnels, which are shown to run underneath the barracks, and that the monster often seems to use to erupt from the ground. Not to mention, the Man in Black does have a penchant for instantly appearing and disappearing as if by teleportation.
Kill him! Where is he?
Then, of course, there's the not insignificant detail that this would be a mentally projected manifestation, and therefore the Man in Black may not have needed to be physically present in the barracks at all. But that raises the question, if the Man in Black can telepathically project manifestations away from his corporeal self to the mentally vulnerable, might he be able to do so to such a person who has left the island? That's what we'll be discussing in the final section of this essay. Until then, namaste and good luck. Oh, you're still here. Hopefully that means you enjoyed this video. If so, please consider sticking around and being a constant for this channel by clicking right up here to subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon if you would like to be notified when more videos like this one arrive. In the meantime, feel free to check out previous content from this channel by clicking here or here. Oh no. Please subscribe.